You're watching TelecomTV's exclusive video coverage of the SDN and OpenFlow World Congress event from Dusseldorf. And I'm joined now by Martin Taylor, who is CTO of Metaswitch. Martin, thanks for talking with TelecomTV again. It's a year on since we were here in Dusseldorf last for the SDN event. What has happened in the market in these 12 months?
The most striking thing to us, I think, is the extent to which network operators have developed a quite sophisticated view of what a virtualized network function should look like and how it should be implemented. A year ago they were saying things like, well, we really don't want just the software ported from an appliance into the NFV space. But they didn't really articulate necessarily what they meant by that. I think now they have a much clearer view of architectural best practices, if you like, around VNFs, microservices, disaggregated architectures, stateless processing, cloud-native kinds of approaches. And they're being very demanding on their vendors that they comply with those kinds of architectural practices.
As you say, it's demanding on vendors. Does this change what vendors have to do, change the way they work because of these more focused requirements?
Well, I think clearly vendors who are able to deliver VNFs that meet those kinds of architectural approaches are going to have a huge advantage in the market. But equally, I think network operators have to be realistic about how long that's going to take. For example, we have built a cloud-native IMS core that took us about 4 years, and clearly it's still work in progress. But products like, for example, a session border controller, our product has been in development continuously for about 9 years, 2.5 million lines of code. You don't just take that overnight and completely re-architect it around microservices. That's going to take time. So I think network operators are going to have to seek out the best, but be prepared to implement with what's available today. Otherwise, it's just going to take them way too long to really get all the benefits of NFV.
Is this a problem inherent with a lot of new technologies, whereby there's a lot of focus, a lot of talk, a lot of discussion? Operators will come to an event like this, see a lot of presentations, see what if you like, their card of all their requirements, their best practices, what they must have is their shopping list, and it's sophisticated shopping list, but it's too sophisticated.
Yeah, one of the things we say to people, don't let the best be the enemy of the good. It's far better to virtualize an appliance in relatively unsophisticated form than it is to keep on deploying physical boxes. If you say, no, we have to wait until we can get VNFs, re-architected, and we have to get all our orchestration fully in place, you're going to be carrying on buying physical boxes for 7 or 8 more years. To us, that doesn't make sense. There are incremental gains to be made by moving quickly and early into virtualizing, even if you're not doing it in the way that ultimately you believe you will.
So it's still cost effective to do that you can go step by step, small steps to get to the bigger end goal.
Yeah, even if the only benefit you get initially is, you eliminate the end of life problem. A piece of software, provided it carries on doing the work you want it to do when you bought it in the first place, will do that work forever. And in the NFV space, you can keep on changing the hardware underneath it. If you buy an appliance, it's going to be end of life in 3 or 4 years' time, and then you're going to have to go through another purchasing cycle to replace it. So that alone, is a good reason to say, no, stop buying boxes, start buying software and deploy it however best you can.
What about different technology approaches? I'm hearing quite a lot at this year's event about containers.
Yeah, so I think as network operators start to understand the right way to architect virtualized network functions, decomposed or disaggregated, scale-out architectures, cloud-native approaches, then I think the question is, well, what's the best deployment vehicle for those kinds of approaches? And containers is a technology that's just becoming very, very topical right now. We regard it as the kind of second generation of virtualization, if you like. First generation was, you have an app running on a physical server, you want to virtualize it, okay, you create an emulation of a physical server in the virtual world, a virtual machine that you run that app on. But if you're building apps from the ground up designed to be virtualized, a container, which is a much more lightweight way of deploying multiple applications on a physical box, containers are perfectly suited to VNFs that are created using microservice style architecture. And it's very much the second generation of virtualization. So I think a lot of network operators are seeing containers in their future and it's starting to experiment, and it makes perfect sense.
So what stage are we at with containers? What work are you doing specifically with regards to this?
We've already showed how Clearwater, our virtualized IMS, can be deployed in containers. And we're working with a number of network operators now on trials and proofs of concept so that they can see, they can kind of look at the trade-offs between containers and VMs and get a sense of what the benefits are.
Are you seeing more network operators actually making steps and inroads into NFV and SDN, or is it the same hardcore, if you like, who are pushing and developing and implementing?
No, I think we're beginning to see the movement has really extended, I think, right throughout the network operator universe. I think almost everyone is now actively planning how they're going to do this, or is making some very concrete steps towards building the infrastructure, doing lab trials, and getting ready to deploy. So yeah, I mean, we are still in the sort of gathering momentum stage, but I think it's really spread throughout right to the. Even the laggards, if you like, are starting work now in this space.
And is there enough support for the smaller operators to implement? Because I understand the larger operators getting involved in proof of concepts, for instance, but what about the smaller people?
We're absolutely seeing activity amongst some of our tier 2 customers, particularly in the CLEC space, where traditionally you've tended to have a fairly go-ahead approach to technology, as a way of maintaining a competitive edge, and some of these operators have got a lot of know-how and skills in the cloud technology space. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing great progress being made, but in islands, not universally. I think the more traditional small telcos are going to need a fair bit of help, but I think over time we're going to see a more packaged approach to NFV. We're not there yet, but I think that's going to come.
So finally, advice to operators really isn't to wait until everything is perfect. Get in now.
Absolutely. I mean, it's going to take a long time to reap all the benefits, but if you spend the next 3 or 4 years in a paper exercise trying to define everything, which has been the traditional telco way of doing things, it's going to take you a long time to reap those benefits. And telco should be taking a lesson from the web world here. It's wade in, get experience with the technology, learn from that, improve on that, and approach it in an iterative way rather than a kind of waterfall, we have to get everything fully designed before we can take the next step approach.
Great. Martin, as ever, thank you very much indeed.